I was home alone because my parents were staying overnight at my aunt's house. I watched their car pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street. I locked the front door after they left, then checked it again 5 minutes later. The house felt normal at first. I made food. I watched TV. I walked from room to room without thinking about it. The sun went down, and the windows turned into black mirrors. By 10, I turned off most of the lights. I left one lamp on in the living room and went to my bedroom. Before getting into bed, I stood still and listened. That was a habit I had when I was alone, just to make sure everything sounded right. The house was quiet. No footsteps, no voices, no movement. I went to bed. I don't know how long I slept before the sound woke me up. It was a soft noise, not loud enough to scare me right away, just enough to pull me out of sleep. It sounded like someone walking. Slow steps, one at a time, like someone didn't want to be heard. I stayed still and listened. The steps moved down the hallway. They stopped, then started again, then stopped again. I checked my phone. It was 12:43 a.m. I texted my mom, "Are you home?" No response. I told myself it was the house settling. Old houses made noise. I knew that. Then I heard a door open. It was quiet, but I knew the sound. The hallway bathroom door had a loose hinge. It always creaked when it opened. The creak came again. Then silence. I sat up in bed. "Hello?" I said. My voice sounded too loud. Nothing answered. I got out of bed and opened my door a few inches. The hallway light was off. The hall was empty. Every door was closed. I went back to bed and locked my door. The footsteps started again. This time, they were closer. They stopped right outside my room. I could hear breathing. Slow, steady. Not rushed, not scared. Like whoever it was had all the time in the world. I didn't move. My whole body felt tight. My hands were numb. The breathing stayed there for a long time. Then it moved away. I listened as the steps went back down the hall, down the stairs, into the living room. I waited. Minutes passed. I thought maybe I imagined it. Then I heard the TV turn on downstairs. The volume was low, just enough sound to be noticed. I knew I turned it off. I called my dad this time. It rang until voicemail. I didn't leave my room. After a while, the TV turned off. Silence again. At 2:11 a.m., I heard someone say my name. It came from the bottom of the stairs. It sounded wrong. Not loud, not clear, like someone was trying to copy a voice they'd heard before. "Come downstairs," it said. I didn't answer. "My parents aren't home," it said. That's when I started crying. The steps came back upstairs. Slow, careful. They stopped outside my door again. The handle didn't turn. Instead, something leaned against the door. I could feel the pressure through the wood. A voice whispered, "I know you're alone." I stayed silent. After a long time, the pressure lifted. The steps went away. Morning light finally came. When I left my room, the front door was still locked. The chain was still on. Nothing was broken. Nothing was missing. But the hallway bathroom door was open. I've tried to come up with explanations for everything that happened that night. Old house noises, stress, being tired. My brain filling in gaps it didn't understand. But even now, years later, I still think about it sometimes. Nothing like that has happened again. But to this day, Whenever I'm alone in a quiet house, I still feel it. That sense that I'm not really alone. I live alone in a basement apartment under an old house. It's nothing special. One bedroom, one bathroom, a small kitchen, and a living room that barely fits a couch. The rent is cheap, which is the main reason I moved in. The landlord lives upstairs. He's older and keeps to himself. I don't hear him much, and he doesn't bother me. The place isn't fancy, but it's quiet, and that's all I wanted. I've lived here for almost 2 years. I talk to myself a lot. Not full conversations or anything, just little comments. Stuff like I'm tired, or I need to eat, or I should go to bed. I work from home, so I'm alone most of the day. Talking out loud keeps the silence from feeling too heavy. The first time the apartment reacted, I didn't think anything of it. I came home one evening and said, "It's freezing in here." A few seconds later, the heater kicked on. I remember smiling and thinking it was good timing. Old buildings are like that. The heater probably had a thermostat I didn't understand. The second time, it caught my attention. I walked into the kitchen carrying groceries and said, "I wish the light was on." Before I reached the switch, the light turned on by itself. I froze for a second, then laughed. I told myself it was a motion sensor I hadn't noticed, or bad wiring, or coincidence. I didn't think about it again for a while. Over the next few weeks, small things kept happening. I'd say, "I'm tired," and the TV would turn off. I'd say, "I can't sleep," and the bedroom light would turn on. Once, I said, "I should shower," and the bathroom fan started up. None of it happened every time. That's what made it easy to ignore. It felt random, unreliable. But it was always after I spoke. I stopped talking out loud as much. That's when I noticed the sounds. Late at night, when everything was quiet, I could hear something inside the walls. Not mice, not scratching. It sounded heavier, like someone shifting their weight. I mentioned it to my landlord once. He said the house was old and settled a lot. Pipes, vents, wood expanding and contracting. Normal stuff. I believed him. One night, I decided to test it. I sat on the couch and said, clearly, "Turn off the bathroom light." Nothing happened. I waited, feeling embarrassed for even trying. Then the bathroom light turned off. The switch didn't move, the room just went dark. I didn't move for a long time. My heart was pounding, but I told myself there had to be an explanation. Electrical issues, short circuits, anything. I whispered, "Stop." Everything went quiet. No hum, no movement, no sound at all. A few seconds later, a voice came from the ceiling vent above the couch. It was calm, close, almost gentle. "You don't have to ask out loud." I ran. I didn't grab my phone or my keys. I ran upstairs and banged on my landlord's door until he opened it. I told him something was wrong, that the apartment was messing with me. He came downstairs with me and checked everything: the thermostat, the breaker box, the vents. He swore there was nothing connected between units, no smart devices, no speakers, nothing that could explain what I heard. I stayed with a friend that night. I almost moved out after that. But nothing else happened. No voices, no lights, no sounds in the walls. I moved back in a few days later and tried to forget about it. That was over a year ago. I still live here. The apartment hasn't responded out loud since then. But sometimes, when I'm sitting quietly and thinking about turning off a light or changing the temperature, it happens on its own. I tell myself it's coincidence. I tell myself I'm noticing things I would have ignored before. But I've stopped talking to myself. And I try not to think too clearly about what I want. just in case something is still listening. I'm a woman in my mid-20s, and I live alone in a small house I rent on the edge of town. It's not creepy. It's not old or falling apart. It's just quiet. One floor, two bedrooms, a small backyard. I moved in after a bad breakup because I wanted space and privacy. No roommates, no shared walls. At first, living alone felt peaceful. I work normal hours. I come home around the same time every night. I lock the door, take off my shoes, put my keys on the hook by the kitchen, and make dinner. My routine doesn't really change. That's important later. The first thing I noticed was the lights. Sometimes when I got home, a light would already be on, usually the kitchen or the hallway. I assumed I forgot to turn it off. I wasn't worried. I was tired most days, and mistakes happen. Then I started noticing which lights were on. It was always the one I would have turned on first. The hallway light, the kitchen light, never the bedroom, never the bathroom. Just the lights that made it easier to come inside. I checked the locks. Doors were locked. Windows were closed. Nothing looked disturbed. I told myself it was nothing. A few weeks later, I noticed something else. When I came home, the house felt occupied. Not like someone was there, just like someone had recently been there. The air felt warmer, still, like it hadn't fully settled. I would stand just inside the door for a second, listening. Nothing. No sounds, no movement. But I still started announcing myself when I came in. I'm home, I'd say, quietly, mostly joking. Nothing ever answered. Then one night, I came home late, almost midnight. I was exhausted and not really paying attention. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and froze. My keys weren't on the hook. They were on the kitchen counter. I stood there for a long time, trying to remember if I'd changed my habit. I hadn't. I never put them there. I didn't call anyone. I didn't check the house. I just picked them up, locked the door, and went to bed with the light on. After that, it started happening more. Cabinet doors left slightly open. The couch pillow dented, like someone had sat there and gotten up recently. My bedroom door not open the way I left it. Still, nothing ever felt violent or rushed. It felt careful. Like whatever it was, didn't want to scare me too badly. One night, I tested something. Before leaving for work, I moved a chair in the living room a few inches to the side, just enough that I'd notice. When I came home, the chair was back where it belonged. That was the first time I cried. I started staying out later. I didn't like coming home to an empty house anymore. I slept with a light on. I kept my phone charged and close. Then I noticed the waiting. When I pulled into my driveway at night, I'd get this heavy feeling in my chest, like someone was on the other side of the door. Not standing there. Just aware. One evening, I sat in my car for almost 10 minutes before going inside. When I finally did, the hallway light was on. I hadn't left it on. I said out loud, "Please don't do this." Nothing happened. Weeks passed. Nothing dramatic, no voices, no figures, just small things, subtle things. Then one night, I came home and the house was completely dark. No lights on. That felt worse. I stood in the doorway, keys in my hand, listening. From somewhere inside the house, I heard a quiet sound. Breathing. Not close, not far. Just present. I whispered, "Hello?" The breathing stopped. After a moment, I laughed nervously and told myself I was imagining it. I locked the door and went to bed. Nothing happened that night. I moved out a few months later for work reasons. New city, new place. I don't live alone anymore. I never found proof that someone was in that house. No break-ins, no missing items, nothing I could point to and say this explains it. But even now, years later, I still pause before opening my front door. Because sometimes, when I unlock it, I get that same feeling. Like something on the other side already knows I'm home and has been waiting.